Hello again everyone, welcome back to the channel, Comic Kid here again, and today we will be discussing S.H.Figuarts versus MAFEX figures. So you can see, I have the S.H.Figuarts Jared Leto Suicide Squad Joker here on the left, and on the right we have the MAFEX BvS Ben Affleck Batman. Now, if you saw my MAFEX versus Mezco video, you already know a little bit about the Batman figure on the right. I'll go over him again, but a little bit more briefly. But the main focus of today will actually be on the Jared Leto Suicide Squad Figuarts Joker. Both are great 12 scale figures. They do each come with their own unique aspects and pros and cons, of course, but the two makers are very similar and people kind of tend to gravitate towards one or the other. Figuarts actually has a big Marvel license. They do a lot of figures for movies like Avengers, and you'll see a lot more Marvel figures on the Figuarts side. They do have a few Justice League figures, but not a whole lot, or at least not a full set of the Justice League figures from the movie. MAFEX, on the other hand, has a full set of figures from the movie. They also have a bunch of Batman, Bale figures. Recently, a comic version inspired by Batman Hush is actually announced and is set to release next year, and I'm really looking forward to that one. But enough about the makers, let's go ahead and actually get started here. So, one of the more immediately noticeable aspects is the scale. MAFEX is slightly taller than most Figuarts figures, and in my opinion MAFEX scales a lot better with things like Legends, Multiverse, etc, etc. All the base DC and Marvel figures. And Figuarts is pretty close. You wouldn't expect Jared Leto's Joker to be taller than Ben's Batman, but he is ever so slightly too small. So as far as scale goes, I really think MAFEX has the slightly better advantage there. They just scale better with the wider toy brands, the wider, cheaper ones. But Figuarts is close. You could make it work on a shelf. That's not a huge disadvantage there. One of the other big noticeable differences is in the joints, especially in the arms. Figuarts does have varying joints in the arms there, but a lot of this ball joint here is pretty common on a lot of their figures. And it provides for some good range, but for the most part he can't quite hit the same mark as MAFEX. So you can see the Batman just has a little bit more of an angle there. Not too much, it's not going to be that much of a difference, but I also feel like this ball here just stands out a lot more than the MAFEX one. Something about the MAFEX one just feels a little bit more natural to me as far as the figure goes. That doesn't really take away from the quality of the figure, but it does certainly affect the appearance of it. Now, the other thing is that both figures are actually very detailed. You can tell that that's Jared Leto's Joker, and it actually resembles Leto fairly well. It could be a little bit better. But for the most part, it's close enough to Jared Leto to where you're I can totally understand who that is. Now with Ben's Batman, on the other hand, he's covered by a mask for the most part. You don't really get a whole lot, or you don't really need a whole lot of extra details there. The suit looks good, the ribbing on the suit looks good, the detail, the gold on the knuckles and on the boots, is all there. So it's still a solid figure. And if you look at the MAFEX Bruce Wayne Batman inspired by Ben Affleck, it does resemble Affleck very well. Now, as far as accessories go, MAFEX almost always includes more with their products than S.H.Figuarts. but it does really kind of depend on which figure you buy. If you buy the Figuarts like Iron Man, for example, you're gonna get a lot of accessories. Jared Leto's Joker is not meant to come with a lot of accessories. He comes with 2 open hands here, 2 closed hands here, and an alternate unsmiling head. Now the Batman, on the other hand, comes with a bunch of hands, a grapnel gun, a batarang, a smoke bomb, and a normal gun. Oh, and the guns on Jared Leto's hands are removable. You don't have to have him holding the guns, and the guns actually do fit very nicely. But as far as accessories go, MAFEX usually provides just a little bit more, but that's not always the case. It usually kind of just depends on the figure itself, like the character. In regards to posability now, they're each gonna have their own advantages. Like, Jared Leto's leg can come up pretty far there. That's basically a perfect 90-degree angle. And so if you look at that and compare it to the Batman one, he will have trouble getting that leg up. Even if you kind of pull the joint down, the leg doesn't get too much of an angle there. But just about everything else on the MAFEX figure is going to be more posable. He can look up. Leto can't really look up that far. Both have a good down range, like so, there. So you already know they have fairly even arm ranges. I feel like MAFEX does have a little bit more there. Both of them do have a circular wrist, and they are slightly different. I will say swapping the hands out on the Joker figure is actually very, very difficult. I actually broke the joint once, and it does pop right back in, but it is incredibly difficult to swap out nonetheless. So be mindful of that. This is actually the only Figuarts figure that I own at the moment, so I'm not 100% sure if all Figuarts figures have difficult joints like that, but yeah, swapping out accessories and hands was pretty difficult on the Figuarts figure. The MAFEX one just felt a lot more smoother, everything kind of popped in nicely, a lot easier, etc., etc. Also, both figures do have butterfly shoulders here. The Figuarts are a little bit more noticeable, but the shoulders will rock in and out like that. They do also rotate with the arms, so you can get a good range of motion there. So, if you don't mind the exposed joints, that's an added benefit. The motion is a lot more limited on the MAFEX one, but it is still there. It is a little more prominent on other MAFEX figures in relation to the Batman, but it's always been a bit more limited, at least in the shoulders. For ab crunch, both of them do come with a joint like right along the belt line as well as right under the rib cage, and so the Batman can bend back actually very, very far there. And he can bend forward pretty far as well. There are better ab crunches, but that's still a very, very good range. And with the Joker, the legs do have a benefit of getting a lot of extra like ab, but a lot of that's actually just, yeah, in the legs. But he does come with a joint there and there as well. So he can't bend back quite as far, but I would say he bends forward a little bit better. Not by much, but at least a little bit. In the knees, he does have a double jointed knee. There, 1, 2. Can come back decently far in comparison. MAFEX definitely has the better joint there. It's a very, very nice range in the leg. And yeah, MAFEX also has the ball joint in the ankles there, so the foot can rock any which way. The Figuarts will rock back and forth and kind of side to side, but the range is definitely more limited there. Both figures do have posable toes. I've never really cared for posable toes. They don't really make all that much of a difference for me. So I will say the MAFEX is the slightly more posable one. At least it's definitely more user-friendly in comparison to the Figuarts. But yeah, that's everything for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to click like and subscribe, share this video with your fellow nerd friends or action figure lovers, and I will see you guys again next week.